Picture this. You wake up and the world is white. Not pretty postcard white, killing white. The kind of cold that doesn't care about you at all. The ground is frozen solid. The air bites at your face the second you step outside. And this isn't a bad week. This is your whole life. This is every day for thousands of years. Welcome to the Ice Age. For most of us, cold is a minor thing. You turn up the heat, you grab a jacket, you wait for spring. But imagine a version of Earth where winter never really lets go, where giant sheets of ice swallow entire continents, where the temperature drops far below anything you've ever felt, and it just stays there. Now, here's the wild part. Humans didn't just live near this world. They lived inside it, bare-skinned, no fur, no claws, no fangs. Basically, a warm weather animal dropped into the harshest deep freeze the planet has ever thrown at us. So how on earth did they make it? How did soft, fragile, tropical humans walk straight into a frozen apocalypse and come out the other side? That's exactly what we're going to break down today. But real quick, if you love this kind of stuff, this deep dive into how we became who we are, do me a small favor. Hit that like button and subscribe. It genuinely helps this channel grow, and it means we get to keep telling these stories. Okay? Cool. Let's get into it. Let's start with the obvious enemy, the cold. Here's something most people don't realize. The human body is basically a tropical machine. We evolved in warm Africa. Warm sun, warm air. Left out in freezing conditions with nothing on, a human doesn't last long. Hypothermia can set in fast. Your fingers stop working. Your brain slows down. And once your body temperature drops too far, that's it. Lights out. No thick fur, no blubber, nothing built in to fight the cold. So by any logic, we should have been one of the first animals to die out when the ice came. But we didn't. We did something insane instead. We walked toward the cold, into Ice Age Europe, into Siberia, into places where the winter could kill you in an afternoon. How? Well, the first answer is fire. And fire's amazing. It's warmth, it's light, it's safety. But fire has one big flaw. It only heats the side of you that's facing it. Turn around and your back's freezing. Walk away to hunt, the cold comes rushing right back. Fire alone was never going to be enough. What people really needed was a way to carry warmth with them, wrapped around their own bodies, everywhere they went. And that brings us to maybe the single most important invention in human survival: clothing. But not the way you're probably imagining it through. For a long time, the idea was simple. It's cold, so you throw an animal skin over your shoulders. Done, right? Not even close. A skin draped over your back leaves gaps everywhere. Wind slips in the sides. Your arms are out in the open. It slides off the second you move. Sure, it beats nothing, but in a real Ice Age winter, beats nothing still gets you killed. The real leap forward was learning to cut those hides into pieces and stitch them back together into the shape of a human body. Sleeves, sealed seams, a garment that trapped a little pocket of warm air right against your skin and held it there no matter how much you moved. That's the difference between a blanket and a coat. And that difference is life or death. But here's the catch. To pull this off, you need a needle. And not just any needle, one with an eye. A tiny little hole for the thread. And that is really hard to make. You take a sliver of bone. You grind it down to a fine point. Then you drill a hole through it. Small enough to be delicate, but strong enough not to snap. And get this. Scientists have found bone needles like this dating back more than 40,000 years. These weren't accidents. These were precise, deliberate tools. Whoever made them knew exactly what they were doing. The thread came from the animal too. Sinew, the tough fiber connecting muscle to bone, could be pulled out, dried, and used to stitch hides into something that actually held together. Line that garment with fur facing inward, and suddenly, a human could stand in air cold enough to kill and stay alive, sealed inside their own little bubble of warmth. That wasn't a luxury. That was the technology that let us leave the warm world we came from and colonize the coldest places on Earth. Take away the needle and thread, and there's no human surviving an Ice Age Siberian winter. full stop. Okay, so now you're warm enough to move, but the sun's going down, the temperature's still dropping, and you've got a new problem. Where do you sleep? The obvious answer is a cave. And yeah, caves mattered. A deep cave holds a steady temperature, blocks the wind, keeps the snow off you. Great, but here's what nobody tells you about caves. They're rare. A good, dry, safe cave in the right spot, hard to find. And if you did find one, chances are someone or something already wanted it too. So most of the time, you couldn't count on a cave. If you needed shelter, you had to build it yourself. And this is where it gets unbelievable. At a place called Mezherych in modern-day Ukraine, archaeologists found the remains of homes built around 15,000 years ago. But there was almost no wood around, almost no stone. So what did they build with? Mammoth bones. They stacked and interlocked the bones of dozens of mammoths into round, dome-shaped houses. Hundreds of bones in a single home. Jaw bones layered like roof tiles. Giant tusks arched over the doorways. These weren't quick, throwaway shelters. These were serious, engineered structures, built to survive a brutal winter. And they took real planning and real work to put together. And inside, every single effort went toward trapping heat. They lined the floors. In fact, at a site in South Africa, researchers found bedding made from layered grass and leaves, dating back an incredible 77,000 years. People were making their homes cozy long before we even left Africa. And they didn't stop there. Think about a mammoth bone hut. Bone doesn't fit together perfectly. There are gaps everywhere. And every gap is a doorway for the wind. So they sealed them, layer after layer. They stretched hides across the walls. They stacked blocks of turf outside. Some even packed snow against the walls. Because thick snow is actually an amazing insulator. It traps air, and trapped air holds heat. Bit by bit, the wind ran out of ways in. The shelter stopped being just walls. It became a system. And it kept people alive on nights that should have finished them off. But there's a third enemy. And honestly, this one might be the deadliest of all: hunger. Here's something modern life has completely erased from our memory. In the Ice Age, when winter hit, the land just stopped feeding you. Plants died back, berries vanished, roots froze solid in the ground. Animals moved on, or hid, or got as thin and desperate as you were. For these people, winter wasn't just cold. It was the season the entire planet quit giving food. And that turned survival into simple math. You had to gather enough during the warm months to carry your whole group through months where almost nothing new came in. So ancient humans became masters of storing food, and they were brilliant at it. First trick? Drying. Slice meat thin, let it dry in the sun or over a low, smoky fire, and you pull all the moisture out. No moisture, no rot. Dried meat could last for months. And the smoke added an extra layer of protection on top. Second trick? They turn the cold itself into a tool. Frozen ground is basically a natural freezer. Dig a pit into the permafrost, pack it with meat from a good hunt, and the cold kept it good for a long time. Think about that. Winter, the thing trying to starve them, became the thing preserving the food that kept them alive. But the single most valuable food in winter? It wasn't even meat exactly. It was fat. When your body's burning huge amounts of energy just to stay warm, lean meat isn't enough. Fat is the most powerful energy source there is. So they rendered animal fat down into a stable, storable form. Then they mixed dried meat with that fat into a dense, long-lasting ration. Tons of calories packed into a small, easy-to-carry chunk. In a season where every single calorie mattered, fat was the difference between a group that made it to spring and one that didn't. So now you're warm. You've got shelter. You've got food stored up. You've beaten 3 of the Ice Age's deadliest weapons. But there's a fourth. And it's the one almost nobody thinks about, because it doesn't attack your body, it attacks your mind. The darkness. The further north you go, the shorter the days get. Sometimes just a few hours of weak daylight. followed by 15, 16 hours of freezing black night. You can't travel. You can't hunt in the dark. You're stuck in a tiny space with the same handful of people night after night after night. And that kind of isolation, that endless waiting, it can break a person in a way cold and hunger never could. But here's the beautiful part. Ancient humans didn't just survive those long nights. They used them. This was the time for every job that didn't need daylight. Sitting by the fire, fixing tools, shaping new spear points, mending clothes, twisting plant fiber into rope, carving. The long night wasn't wasted time. It was workshop time. The hours where a group got everything ready for the moment the weather finally broke. And it was more than just work. Around that fire, in the dark, is where people talked. Where elders passed down everything they knew to the young. Where stories got told again and again, carrying a group's memory across generations. A huge chunk of what we call human culture, the myths, the songs, the shared knowledge, was born in exactly these conditions. In fact, in 2014, a researcher named Polly Wiesner studied a group in the Kalahari and found that after dark, conversation shifted away from practical stuff and towards stories, song, and ritual. The firelight itself changed what people were willing to share. People huddled together against the dark, keeping each other warm, keeping each other sane, keeping each other human until the light came back. And when you step back and look at the whole thing, something amazing comes into focus. The Ice Age didn't just get survived, it shaped us. Think about it. The cold pushed us to invent fitted, sewn clothing. The lack of caves pushed us to invent real architecture. The lack of food pushed us to invent storage and preservation. And the long, dark nights, they gave birth to human culture itself. Nearly every tool that let our species spread across every climate on Earth was forged in the fight to survive the cold. The harshest chapter in our planet's history didn't wipe us out. It made us stronger, smarter, and tougher than we had any right to be. So the next time you're cold and you reach over and you turn up the heat, take just 1 second. Because 100,000 years ago, your ancestors were out there, freezing, starving, huddled together in the dark, figuring it all out, one invention at a time, so that one day you'd never have to. They didn't just survive the Ice Age, they won it. And that victory, it's the reason you're here. If this blew your mind even a little, hit subscribe. We've got a lot more stories like this coming. I'll see you in the next one.